Alright, so here's a quick video of a jukebox that I've got in the shop here. This is a, oh, Nacho. Oh, you're such a goof. Okay, yeah, this is a 1971, is it 71 or 72? It's either or, but basically there was a blue one and there was a red one that came out. This one's called the Firestar. The other one, I believe, is called a Bandshell. They basically look the same. One's blue and one's red, and you know they've got slightly different art, but the overall shape and everything is all the same. Anyway, very good jukeboxes, both of them. This one happens to be a Firestar, and yeah, let's get right into what it's all about here. So, yeah, in the 60s, Seeburg kind of was doing the console thing, where they were like big square jukeboxes that were kind of, you know, the 60s, you know, they didn't look like that anymore. They kind of look more like that. And, you know, which is fine, you know, that's got a certain kind of, I don't know, Mad Men, Dean Martin kind of funky appeal to it. But the 70s was, well, that was its own thing. Very stylized, as you can see, very swoopy. They didn't want them to be just big brown boxes with wood on the side. They wanted them to kind of, the wood was gone, and it was all about the art and the flash. So a lot of these 70s Seeburg, well, 70s jukeboxes in general had pretty neat art. Well, either that or they looked like big woody station wagons, but this one didn't go in that direction. This is more of a, you know, I don't know, it's got that funky sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call it disco, but very heavily stylized, certainly. So, yeah, and these are excellent machines. This was the beginning of the digital selection system, so another difference would be, you know, this has sort of, I guess, you know, this almost looks like a, well, like an old telephone, you know, if you're old enough, if you're really old, you remember phones with dials, but yeah, after dials was beep boop boop buttons, there'd be a pound sign here. I don't know, kids now might call it a hashtag or something. Anyway, yeah, so that kind of replaced these clickety-clackety clunky buttons that used to be on jukeboxes. They went with that. It's got a modern, well, it's all relative, but at the time a modern digital selection system, so there's a little bit less stuff to go wrong, a little less moving parts, and it turned out to be a very reliable system. So these are good machines. They sound good, they look good. A lot of engineering and planning went into these, and I'll show you quickly this. You'll see down here, you've got two 12-inch subs, and you've got a ported box. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a little ported hole there. Now, that was a big deal. A lot of like this jukebox behind me here just has two subwoofers. I don't know if I'd call them subwoofers, but the bass speakers that were down low were just open. They're in, I don't know, if you're into audio, you'll know what I mean. They're just hanging there in the jukebox. And this jukebox has them sealed and has a port in the front to make sure that, you know, you're getting the sound reflecting in the right direction, and that, you know, there was just clearly a little more engineering that went into these than went into some other jukeboxes. So I've always liked these for that reason. And they just look cool. They're well built and they look cool. So yeah, that's why I like them. Now this particular model, or this particular machine, I should say, is well, it's in good shape, although I must point out a few little things. These have, the art on these is made of kind of like the same thing that like an old pinball machine would be made of. Like an old pinball machine where there's like paint on glass. So there's actually art that's on the glass. And what can happen to these is that the art, you know, in Canada especially, with changing weather and changing seasons and stuff, I find if these have been stored outside, a lot of these things have been in long-term storage where it's not climate controlled, and then this all gets destroyed. It shrinks and it cracks. The front is fantastic on this one. It looks brand new. Everything looks great. But up top here, everything's fine until you get kind of down here, and then, oh no, it's got a little bit of cracking. It doesn't look quite so perfect there, which is unfortunate because the rest of it isn't really that bad. So, you know, it's not as perfect as some of the stuff that I like to have, but still, you know, a nice machine nonetheless. Certainly not an old clunker, that's for sure. Another sad thing was I took all this apart to clean everything inside of here, and when I removed this, there had been some moisture in here, and I suppose the art, again, it's a piece of glass with art sandwiched up against it. When the moisture got in, I guess it caused kind of a bond to happen, and when I took everything apart to clean everything, some of the art kind of, well, it didn't survive. So there's a little smear there. It's a little bit sad. But beyond that, this thing is a clean machine. Not the cleanest. It's definitely not the cleanest Seeburg Firestar that I've ever had in the shop, that's for sure. But, you know, certainly a nice machine in its own right. And definitely, you know, looks good, sounds good. Mechanism has been gone through, amplifier's been rebuilt, everything that needs to be done to make it reliable has been done, and it's been tested in the shop for a while. So, yeah, so there you go. Let's test this thing. So I'm just gonna pick a song. I have no idea how loud this thing is gonna be when I turn it on here. Picking up the record, super cool. I suspect it's a bit loud. Ah, it's not so bad. Yeah, it's pretty loud. Had a little hard time finding the volume knob. Okay, so yeah, a clean machine. Everything's ready to go. Not the cleanest, like I said. It has some boo-boos here, and you know, the art up top here, you know, is in a few places looking a little bit yuck. But you know, beyond that, if you can live with that, it is fine. It otherwise is pretty complete. Does not have, so there's no lock on the top, so the way you open this is you pull this back. Normally there would be a lock here. That lock is just, it was gone when I got it, and it's really not necessary to have the lid function. In fact, it's just kind of a pain in the butt, so I didn't replace it, and that's just how that is. But it works perfectly fine. It does have the coin door, the coin gear, and the coin box. It just doesn't have, again, there's no lock on it, but it's all there, and that door would close and you would not see any of that. But yeah, that's basically it. It's a pretty nice machine, and it's ready to go. So yeah, if you're into super 70s stuff, and you want something that looks good and sounds good, which you probably do, then this is not a bad deal. There you go, Seeburg Firestar.